Do you believe in conspiracy stories, ghost stories, anything like that? Latin American culture is known for its folktales, legends, ghost stories, and conspiracy stories. Growing up in a Mexican household, I was exposed to many of these stories. Hello, my name is Jasmine and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about one of the stories I was exposed to, and a little bit about what I did as I was exposed to it. This story is going to be about a distant aunt that passed away and the rumors / conspiracy stories that were told about her. First, let's start with a little bit of background. I learned about my aunt while I was in first grade, and at the time I was in the care of my grandparents, and in this house there also lived my uncles, my two youngest uncles, and my oldest cousins. Back then they were obsessed with the paranormal. They loved ghost stories, anything they could find. And I remember one night we were gathered, well, those that like listening to them, which was my two uncles, my oldest cousins, my three oldest cousins, an aunt, and I. And we were in the back of our house, which can be very creepy, the back of my grandma's house. And we were there, and they were saying how they were remembering what happened to them when they were a little bit younger. And us little kids were like, what happened, right? And they said that their aunt appeared. Well, they thought it was their aunt. They saw like a shadow in front of them, and they just froze up. And one of them said that he asked the shadow what it wanted and like how like they could help or anything, but I just thought they were messing around with us. And so I was like, there's no way that happened. Like, we don't even have an aunt, right? And later my cousins were really intrigued, so we found out, and we were like, we asked them what the story was about our aunt, and we also asked other members if it was true, if we really did have an aunt. And the story about our aunt was that apparently it was my grandpa's sister that lived next to us, that used to live next to us, and she had passed away. And so we were like, why did that happen? What happened to her? Why did she show up? Shouldn't spirits go up into the light, right? So us little kids were trying to learn as much as we could about our aunt. And so we asked around to family members as well as community members, because it's a small town where we grew up, and everybody knew each other, and there was always stories. So we eventually found out that my aunt was forced, well, these were stories, may or may not be true, that she was forced into marriage, and her life was basically miserable. She hated and was mistreated by her husband, and apparently her husband was always drunk and would always like come home and beat her up. And so she was really unhappy. And then one day the neighbors said, community members said that they were arguing, and apparently it is said that he killed her while they were fighting, but there was no proof. I mean, he would have been in jail if that was true, right? But that's my thinking now. Back then I was like, oh my god, why isn't he in jail? Did he really kill her? And apparently her soul is still in the house, and haunts him. That's why he was always drunk, because whenever we saw him, we were just like, oh, it's a random guy that lives there, and he's always drunk, and he's never in the house. He's never in the house except for in the night, and during the day you would always just see him drinking, and then in the night he was so wasted he could barely go into his house. I remember because sometimes he would come, and since we lived right next to them, sometimes my uncles or someone nearby would help him go into his house, and we really thought it was true. We were like, that's why he's never there. So after hearing this story, my cousins and I wanted to see if it was true, if her spirit was really trapped in there. So my oldest cousin, which was the one that was obsessed with these scary stories, he got us equipment, and we this equipment was flashlights, water guns. What were we gonna do as kids with water guns? Who? Just and so we were over here trying to be FBI, trying to figure out this story. And so we would go late at night into our neighbor's house, which was their house, and the way we could go in was because basically all the land that's there was my great grandma's land, and she gave them to their sons and daughters, which was my grandpa, and then her sister, which was my dead aunt, and then another sister. And so if you go to the back, I don't know why, but each family member had like a garden, and there was like a little metal wired fence, and we would just jump that to go into the other houses. And so in the night, we would sleep over and then wake up and go, all of us prepared with like water balloons and stuff, and go and jump, and we would just like spread out. We also had walkie-talkies and like codes, and we would spread out and try to see if the spirit was there. It got to a point where we actually one day went into the house, because we were like, maybe it's not outside, maybe it's inside the house. So I remember we went up into the roof of my grandma's house, and we later jumped. We jumped to the other rooftop and went into the house because it was locked. I don't know why it wasn't locked, but we went into the other house, right? And we were trying to see, and it was really creepy inside. All of her stuff, all of girls, like woman perfume and stuff was still there, and we thought it was hers. So we got creeped out and we left. But anyways, that was my crazy story. Thank you for listening, and I hope you really enjoyed it. And stay tuned to another time of me exposing myself and the crazy stories that I do, the crazy things that I do.